If you're a die-hard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns have stirred the pot once again, and this time it's their quarterback room that's the hot topic of conversation. With off-season whispers turning into full-blown speculation, NFL insider Mike Florio has dropped a bombshell prediction that could shake up the Browns roster before training camp even begins. The Browns, who initially entered the offseason with the goal of stabilizing and improving their QB situation, now find themselves with an embarrassment of riches, or depending on your point of view, an unsustainable surplus. We're talking 5 quarterbacks in the room, and that's not even counting Deshaun Watson, who's clearly still penciled in as the starter. Among these QBs, Kenny Pickett has suddenly found himself at the center of trade rumors. Yes, the same Pickett who was recently seen taking first-team reps. If Florio's instincts are correct, and let's be honest, they usually are, then Pickett might be packing his bags yet again. So how did we get here? It's been a whirlwind of moves for the Browns this offseason. First, they made a low-risk, potentially high-reward trade with the Philadelphia Eagles to bring in Kenny Pickett. At the time, it looked like a smart move. Get a young, somewhat experienced quarterback into the system, see what he can do in a different environment, and maybe push Watson just enough to bring out his best. But the Browns weren't done. Just a month later, they doubled down on experience and brought back veteran Joe Flacco on a 1-year deal. It was a move that made sense. Flacco knows the system, he's steady under pressure, and he offers leadership that's hard to come by. But then came the NFL draft, and with it the selections of Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Suddenly, Cleveland had gone from being cautious with quarterbacks to hoarding them. Now the million-dollar question: what happens next? Florio made it clear he doesn't believe all 4 backup QBs are heading to training camp. That's just too many cooks in the kitchen, too many reps to split, and too many egos to manage. According to him, someone's getting moved, and the most likely candidate is Kenny Pickett. Florio says the Browns have been actively trying to boost Pickett's trade value. The recent praise about how good he's looked during off-season programs? That might not be entirely organic. It could very well be Cleveland's front office planting seeds in the media, hoping that some QB-needy team takes the bait and makes an offer. And honestly, it makes sense. Why keep a guy you're not truly invested in if you can flip him for draft capital or a missing piece? What's ironic is that Pickett, despite all the trade chatter, has actually looked solid in practice. He's taken first-team reps, executed clean throws, and by all accounts impressed some coaches. But let's be real, Cleveland didn't draft 2 quarterbacks just to stash them on the bench behind the guy they got on the cheap. They have a vision, and it likely includes one of these rookies, Gabriel or Sanders, ascending to a long-term backup role, or even potentially stepping into the starting job if Watson falters or goes down with injury. That's why Florio's prediction rings so true. Cleveland is not in the business of sentimentality. They're in the business of winning. If they feel they can get something of value for Pickett now, they're not going to hesitate. And don't forget about Joe Flacco. If Pickett is traded, that opens the door wide for Flacco to take control of the offense as the bridge veteran. His re-signing didn't come out of nowhere. This team trusts him. He was solid down the stretch last season. He's a calming presence in the locker room, and he's got a cannon that still earns respect from opposing defenses. If the Browns are looking to ease one of their rookie QBs into the pro level, having Flacco as the starter makes a ton of sense. He can handle the heat while they develop Gabriel or Sanders behind the scenes. That setup would allow Cleveland to be both competitive and forward-thinking at the same time. Now, if you're wondering about the possibility of cutting one of the rookies instead, sure, it's on the table, but it's not the likeliest scenario. Gabriel and Sanders were brought in for a reason, and you don't use draft capital on young quarterbacks just to discard them a few months later. The front office sees potential in both, and cutting either before training camp would be an admission of failure that the Browns probably aren't willing to make. Instead, they're more likely to let the 2 rookies battle it out in camp while Flacco leads the way and Watson rehabs or continues his journey back to top form. That brings us to the larger picture here. The Browns are clearly hedging their bets. They know Watson's situation remains uncertain. Whether it's injuries, inconsistency, or off-field concerns, they can't afford to go into the season without a solid plan B or C. That's why they've assembled this QB battalion. But as June rolls in, it's time to start trimming the fat. The roster must be streamlined, and the quarterback room will not survive in its current state. Floria's prediction that Pickett will be the odd man out is rooted not just in speculation, but in logic. The Browns are positioning themselves for a move, and the rest of the league should be paying close attention. If Pickett is moved, don't be surprised if it happens quickly and quietly. This is the NFL, and timing is everything. The Browns may already be in talks with teams in need of a backup or developmental starter. Think about franchises like the Patriots, Raiders, or even the Giants. Clubs that are unsure about their current depth or looking for a spark. Pickett isn't a lost cause. He showed flashes in Pittsburgh, and with the right coaching and system, he could still develop into a reliable option. Cleveland could capitalize on that potential and turn what was a minimal investment into meaningful compensation. For Browns fans, the takeaway is this: expect change. The QB room you see today won't be the same one that enters training camp. The front office is playing chess, not checkers, and every move is calculated. Whether it's a trade, a surprise cut, or a reshuffling of reps in camp, this team is committed to competition and growth. Pickett may be the next domino to fall, but he won't be the last. Stay tuned, because this saga is far from over, and if history tells us anything, Cleveland always keeps things interesting when it comes to their quarterbacks. In the end, whether you agree with Floria's prediction or not, one thing is clear: the Browns are making bold decisions to set themselves up for success. The era of sitting still and hoping for the best is over. With depth, youth, and experience all fighting for a spot, the coming weeks will be crucial. Training camp is just around the corner, and with it comes clarity, controversy, and maybe, just maybe, the next big move that changes everything. So buckle up, Browns fans. This offseason ride isn't done yet. Enjoying the content so far. Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. A seismic shift has just rocked the NFL landscape as Cleveland Browns superstar defensive end MYLES GARRETT has officially demanded a trade following what insiders are calling an explosive confrontation with the Browns front office. This shocking turn of events has left fans stunned and analysts scrambling to understand how the relationship between one of the league's most dominant defensive forces and his team could have deteriorated so dramatically. Garrett, known for his ferocious pass rushing skills and leadership on and off the field, had long been considered the cornerstone of the Browns' defense and a franchise player destined to spend his entire career in Cleveland. But now, with tensions boiling over behind closed doors, it seems that dream has come to an abrupt and chaotic end, sending shockwaves through the entire NFL community. Sources close to the situation reveal that the confrontation between Garrett and the Browns front office escalated rapidly over the past few weeks, culminating in a heated exchange that reportedly left both sides unwilling to reconcile. While the exact details remain murky, it is believed that the dispute stemmed from a combination of contract disagreements, philosophical differences regarding the team's direction, and Garrett's frustration over the Browns' handling of recent roster moves. The star defensive end had allegedly been pushing for more input on personnel decisions and greater transparency from management, only to be met with resistance and, in his view, a lack of respect for his status and contributions to the team. 4. The Cleveland Browns organization. This is nothing short of a nightmare scenario. MYLES GARRETT isn't just another player. He's a generational talent, a perennial Pro Bowler, and the emotional leader of their defense. Losing him would be catastrophic, not only in terms of on-field performance, but also for the team's identity and long-term aspirations. Garrett's presence has been instrumental in transforming the Browns from perennial underachievers to legitimate playoff contenders in recent seasons. His departure would undoubtedly create a massive void and force the team into a difficult and uncertain rebuilding phase, especially considering the financial and strategic implications of trading away such a high-profile player. On Garrett's side, the decision to request a trade wasn't made lightly. Those familiar with his mindset describe him as fiercely loyal, intensely competitive, and deeply committed to the city of Cleveland and its passionate fan base. For years, he has embraced his role as the face of the franchise, weathering the ups and downs with unwavering professionalism. However, it appears that the latest string of disagreements with the front office, coupled with what he perceives as a lack of alignment regarding the team's future, ultimately pushed him past his breaking point. His trade demand is being viewed by many as both a personal and professional statement, signaling that he's no longer willing to compromise his values and ambitions for the sake of organizational politics. The NFL community is already abuzz with speculation about potential landing spots for Garrett, with virtually every team in the league likely to at least inquire about the possibility of acquiring him. Given his elite skill set, work ethic, and proven track record, Garrett would instantly elevate any defense he joins to championship caliber status. Among the rumored frontrunners are teams with both the cap space and draft capital to make a serious offer, such as the Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, and even the Dallas Cowboys. However, the Browns will undoubtedly set a sky-high asking price, knowing full well the magnitude of the asset they are parting with and the leverage they hold in trade negotiations. In the wake of Garrett's trade demand, Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski and general manager Andrew Berry have publicly expressed their desire to mend the relationship, emphasizing Garrett's importance to the team and reiterating their commitment to building a winning culture around him. However, insiders suggest that the damage may be irreparable at this point, with Garrett's camp reportedly firm in their stance that a change of scenery is the only viable path forward. This standoff places enormous pressure on the Browns' leadership to carefully navigate an unprecedented situation, balancing the need to uphold organizational principles with the reality of potentially losing their most valuable player. Fans of the Cleveland Browns have reacted with a mix of heartbreak, anger, and disbelief. Social media platforms have been flooded with emotional tributes to Garrett, alongside fierce criticism of the front office for allowing the situation to deteriorate to this extent. Many supporters are calling for transparency from team executives, demanding to know how and why negotiations with Garrett collapsed so dramatically. For a franchise long accustomed to turbulence, this latest chapter feels particularly painful, given the optimism that had been steadily building around the team's recent resurgence and playoff appearances. Myles Garrett's teammates have also begun to weigh in, with several players expressing shock and disappointment at the news. Star running back Nick Chubb and quarterback Deshaun Watson both took to social media to voice their support for Garrett, describing him as an irreplaceable leader and competitor. Their reactions underscore the profound impact Garrett has had, not only on the team's defensive schemes but also on its overall culture and morale. Losing a figure of his stature could have ripple effects far beyond the defensive line, potentially unsettling the entire locker room and altering the trajectory of the Browns' upcoming season. As the situation continues to unfold, league executives, agents, and media insiders are bracing for what could become one of the most high-stakes and closely watched trade sagas in recent NFL history. The coming days and weeks will likely see a flurry of trade proposals, back-channel communications, and strategic maneuvering as teams position themselves to land Garrett. Meanwhile, the Browns face the unenviable task of either convincing their star player to stay or orchestrating a trade that mitigates the immense loss they are about to suffer. For Myles Garrett, this moment represents both the end of an era in Cleveland and the beginning of a new chapter in his already illustrious career. Ultimately, this shocking development serves as a stark reminder of the complex dynamics that define modern professional sports. No matter how talented or beloved a player may be, relationships between athletes and organizations are always vulnerable to strain and rupture, especially in an environment as intensely competitive and high stakes as the NFL. Myles Garrett's trade demand is not just a headline-grabbing story. It's a case study in leadership, communication, and the challenges of sustaining long-term success in a league where egos, ambitions, and business interests frequently collide. As fans and analysts alike await the next move in this dramatic saga, one thing is certain: the NFL will never be the same after this. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!